yesterday we had completed to store in database table. We can use this wizard like new store procedure. So if you press create new store procedure, you will get a template like how to create a store procedure. So comment for this template, and now we have a standard comment section like who is creating the database, what is the date when created, and what is the description, and this is the syntax to create a store procedure. So it's better to use this template so that you have a proper convention and the formatting well, so that you can do a little bit good job. But as we are learning today, so we'll go with a plain query window. So look, I have a blank window. So how to create a procedure? There is a syntax called create, and then we are going to create a procedure. So we'll say PROC procedure, and then we have to provide a name. But for the name, there is a better way to do. Like we always write this DBO. This is the permission that is granted to execute the execution for the procedure. So DBO is database owner permission. The user that who try to execute, they must have a database owner permission. And then we'll set dot, and within this, the name start. And whenever we create a store procedure, we will add a prefix USP. USP stands for user stored procedure. And there are SP. So if something you find in SQL Server is starting with SP, it indicates that it is created by the system. But when we create our store procedure, we add a prefix USP, and then we say for what we are creating the SP. So we are creating a store procedure for this employee table. So we say employee, and then for now we are going to create for add. So we'll say EMP add or employee add. Now, after this, we have to supply the parameter. So as we know, our table only have a two columns, first name and last name, and user ID is primary key and auto incremented. So what we can do, we say at the rate, and we say first name, and then we have to define the data type. So data type, as we know, it's a n varchar 50. So we'll say n varchar, and we say 50, and then comma for the next one at the rate last name, and then again we have to complete with n varchar, n varchar. Oh, sorry, n varchar, and we say 50. And for the naming convention, some people will prefer to make like this. So it's up to you. Please use the template that I have shown you. But for learning purpose, we had created a two parameter, and then after when we finish the number of parameter, we'll say as, and then we write our logic from here, like what we want to do. So we want to insert into the table. For that, we need to know the SQL syntax. So for SQL syntax, it's really very easy one that we had written yesterday. Insert into, and then this DBO is very similar to this one that we had just explained, and the table name, column names, and the value that we are getting from here, first name and last name. One thing that we have here, there is two way, like we can keep comma here or here. So I had written both one, upper side I have here, and this will have a better readability. But for the readability and usability, we'll consider like this convention as well. Like let's say sometime we do not need, so we can comment like this. So this is the option that we have in the formatting section of SQL Server. So if we have to comment any line in SQL Server, what we can do, we can start with this double dash, and then we say this is the stored procedure for the EMP add, something like, so that if someone read it, they can understand it. But this is not the way that we do. Just I have shown you how to comment in SQL Server. Now, in order to create, we have to run this query. So there is a button execute. Once we press this one, this will say store procedure is created successfully. And to check that, if we refresh this section, we will get our store procedure over here. It's ready over here. But I want to test how to test this store procedure is working or not. So what we can do, we can copy this name and add two single dash, and then we have a name and we have to supply two parameters, first name and last name. So let's say we'll say Suman Khadka and select only this one, not that commented one. If you try to run this one, it will say one row is affected. This means our store procedure is working perfectly. Now, if I have to modify anything within this store procedure, what we can do, alter, and let's bring this comma over here just for the showing we can do the alter as well. So this is the way how we create store procedure and how we do the alter, how to check in database and how to comment for the store procedure. Now we had created a simple store procedure. The name is this. Now it's time to call this store procedure from the our C# code. So now let's move on our SQL class employee data provider and create a one function that will call that store procedure. So how to call that one? I already had created it. I will just paste and explain you to save the time so that we can do little bit more things. So just I had created one function, add employee by store procedure. So I added this name and this is the same parameter that we have yesterday. This is the same connection that we had created yesterday. Now today we have a SQL command and we had given a connection to that SQL command. And now today we are providing a command text is the name of the store procedure that we just created. So what is the name of our store procedure? This is. So what I will do, I will change this with our store procedure name and we have to provide the command type. So this is the command text and what is the command type? It is type of store procedure. So we have provided command type as store procedure. Now we have to pass our two parameter. So there are so many ways to pass the parameter. Among them, this is the one way. We will say parameters dot add value and we provide the name of the parameter that we have here, first name and last name. So we have to copy and paste in order to avoid the uh, any mistakes. So first name and last name, and we have to provide the data type. So the data type we know that is n varchar, and what is the value we want to pass? First name and last name. With that, we started our try section because if due to any reason the connection cannot be open or there may be any problem, so we write these lines in try block and we say connection open and execute non-query. It will definitely going to run our store procedure and finally it will return an affected number of rows. But as we are not doing anything, so we don't care what is returned by this execute non-query for now. And to call this store procedure, we need to change in our code from this caller. So what we do, we'll comment our yesterday code and we'll say call this function that we just created. If we will run now, first let's see the data in the database. So how you can see the data in the database? We have to write select all from this table. So for now we have number of 8 rows and now run our application and try to add one data. So with this, let's say we say Aman Singh and we press save button. We got the our message that data is stored in database. So to confirm, we can go in our SQL server and we again run this query. We can find Aman Singh is inserted in the database, this time with the help of stored procedure. So this is the one way doing the operation in database with the help of store procedure. So till now we learned two ways. But these two are the totally pure method which will run in any version of C#. Remember, in any version of C#, you not need to have a Visual Studio 2022. You can run in Visual Studio 2005 as well, in 2001 as well. Because we are using the very pure method ADO.NET. But if we write everything from scratch, there can be a lot of problem. Let's say someone had done the mistake somewhere, then you have to care in lot of places. So to do this operation, there are so many libraries. Among them, one is SQL Helper, very old framework, and other is Entity Framework. There is also a library called Dapper. And there are so many, like if you try, you can find a more than 50 framework for the same operation. But we cannot try all the frameworks. So I will teach you two way more, but in next classes, one I will teach you the SQL Helper. Why I will teach you SQL Helper is the something that will provide a little bit library feature, but you have a full control on your data for the super fast performance. And other I will teach you entity framework that will help you to do the thing faster for the data that have a not have a too much data. Though we can use a entity framework for any type of data, but it's better to not to use for the huge data. So I will teach you two frameworks, but they internally always do the same things that we had done till now. So what we had done till now, we created a small class. We had set the values of that by hard coded or from the console or from the Windows application. And we tried to store those data in file in the database. Now, this is the one cycle like getting the data from the user interface and storing to somewhere. Now, to do these operations, we need to know little bit. There are few things that we need for better programming approach. For that, we have to learn object-oriented concept. So in object-oriented concept, as per I know you all guys have a class of C++ or any other one where you got too many things. Can anyone tell me, single person, by unmuting yourself, like what are the OOPS concept, OOP concept? Can anyone tell me just by unmuting?
Polymorphism, encapsulation. You're talking about this?
Yeah. Go on. Encapsulation, polymorphism, others? Any other?
I'm, I'm trying to remember.
Inheritance, class object,
Inheritance.
inheritance,
Inheritance.
Yeah, please go, complete.
data abstraction,
SS fact.
passing.
Abstraction.
Yeah, okay. So you guys know like the name abstraction, encapsulation. While implementing, do you know that what is that? How to implement that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good. But I will try to I explain them so that you get the revised, because it is something we need to understand very well. So let's move in our class. We have a class employee. This is very plain class. We have everything public and we have properties, nothing more than that. So there is nothing wrong with this employee class, but let's say we have this class employee. Now, if we have to add anything within this class, like let's say we have a manager class, for example. So we have to say public class manager, for example, I guess just now. This manager also need to have a first name, last name, right? And user ID. So if we can inherit this feature in our this class, how can we do that? If I will do this double semicolon and then like this. So what it means that I'm going to inherit this employee class within this manager class. So now this become a parent class and this is the child class. Is it simple? Like whatever this class have, we are just inheriting in our manager class. Now, whenever we need a employee, first name, last name, and user ID, we'll get from this class for this manager. Manager, what can have extra? Can anyone tell me? Manager, what can have extra?
Manager can have its own properties.
Yes. What can you name anyone? Anything for that manager?
Post,
Okay. So I will make a property. We will say post. What data type it must be?
string,
Okay. So we have a one more property. Let's say we'll say for
designation.
now emp post. I will say position. Place a post. We'll say position. Now, let's do one more. Let's make it decimal, and we will say salary. Just for now. Okay. So we have two more property with this manager. So in C#, this is the way we do the inheritance. But we have a employee class. So if I will create public interface I employee. Remember for interface we always have a I, and then what I will do, I will say public what we have a first name and then we have a last name and we have a user ID also, right? We have a user ID of data type integer. So we'll say public int this and we'll say get and we'll say set. Now this is the employee I employee class and let's for now add one method public and we'll say void add, and we'll say employee. Remember, in interface, we only have a signature, not a implementation. Now, if I want to build our employee class with this interface, now we have, what is the problem? Why it's showing the red? Oh, it's asking, do you like to implement this interface? I will say yes. So it will write some code for me. It will try to implement everything for me. So as we had written everything previously, it will just add a one method for me and add a blank implementation for us. Because the property that we had created, everything is already implemented within this class. So this is very intelligent and had done nothing for that, just added a few things for us. That is, we have one method implemented over here and the remaining we have to implement. So we created an add employee class over here, a method over here, but if you remember in our starter code, what we had done, we had taken the reference of our this project in our employee data provider to access these values. So now if I will try to implement over here, then what I have to do? I have to call that data like employee data provider within this class. So what will happen? There can be a chance of cyclic reference. Like our data provider have a reference of this employee class, and we add a reference of employee data provider in our this project. So both DLL have a cyclic reference, and in good design we never prefer that. So there is always a situation like this is not the job of this employee class actually. So always remember, we need to separate the concern. Like in iEmployee, we only need to have a properties, not these methods for now. So that we will not have a cyclic kind of things. For those things, we will create a employee manager or employee controller kind of thing. And that will have this employee ID delete kind of things. Always create a class for one scope so that you have only one reason to modify that class. Though we can create everything within single class, but what we are trying to learn from very beginning, we always try to separate the concern. So we created an interface with a blank signature, and then we implemented that interface in our employee class, and we had done the inheritance of this manager class is inheriting the employee class. Now, till now, guys, you have any question? Anyone? No question, right? These are the very
So
simple things.
slightly portion actually repeat गरिदिनु अलि बुझेन
Actually, what I'm trying to say, let me repeat again. So, yesterday, what we had done, look in our dependency. We have in our this data layer, what we had done, if you open this file, we have a reference of this user management, right? And user management, where is our user management? Here. In user management, what we have? Employee class. So this user management is already referenced in our data layer. And if we reference this data layer in our user management class, then what happened? This one is referenced in this one and this one is referenced in this one. So it become a cyclic, right? So we try to avoid cyclic one, like this one is referred to this one, then always only that one, not the again repeat one. Got the concept? Or I have to use the diagram, please.
Sir, got it.
Got it? Okay, then great. Now, so in interface, there is always a situation we can create too many things, but always try to make it as thin as possible. Because if you have too many things within your interface, the one who will try to implement, they have to implement everything. So create only those attributes methods in interface that are really needed for the one scope. Do not mix too many things. Please remember, because I had seen the developer, they say that this is the interface and this is just a definition. So we'll just include everything that we need. And they forget, like if someone have to implement it, they have to implement everything. So that is not good practice. So always create only those things in interface that really needed for one scope. For other things, other scope, you can create another interface. And one more bad thing that I had written in this code, like we had created 3 classes in single file. Never do that. Why I had created to show in single file? You always create a separate file for each class. And that is the best practice. So for these 3 files, classes, we will create the 3 new files. Every time, please remember that. And the namespace must be the same for the one scope. I already told you namespace is for the like kind of collection for your classes. So it's a wrapper. Just with that name, we can use that class. So for the similar scope, use the same namespace. But do not add too many things in a single namespace. Otherwise, there will be no benefit of having in namespace. So we always try to modularize our projects whenever we have a scope to implement it. Now, we had seen a few things for the. Do you guys know what is polymorphism? How to implement that?
Using overloading and overriding, sir.
Okay, very good answer. So, can you provide any real life example for the polymorphism?
Sir, like a son inherit from dad, like behavior, gene,
Mhm.
their like genes and disease, like.
So that is inheritance.
Yeah, sorry.
Sir, you can say TB remote polymorphism having many forms. You can use to both turn it off and turn it on.
TV remote.
Yeah, power button.
That is polymorphism.
Yes, you said polymorphism, right?
Please think
जस्तै
once more.
एउटा फङ्सन क्रिएट गरिन्छ एरिया भन्छ होइन, अब त्यसले
I think
अर्को स्क्वायरको डिनोट नि गर्न सक्यो, रेक्टेङ्गललाई डिनोट गर्न नि सक्यो, त्यसरी गर्न सकिन्छ होला सायद।
Hmm.
A man, sir.
Mm-hmm. How?
He can be son, he can be father at a time.
Okay. Good example. Okay. Good answer. But let's come a little bit more practical so that everyone understand. Yeah, your concept is right. I will create your example public class, and we will say let's make a public class. Sorry, public interface, and then we will say I save, and within this save, what we need? We need prop. So we'll say for now, for simplicity, let's make it integer, and we'll say length, and we'll say just a second. Just a second, guys. Sorry. So let's make it breathe. Now, let's say we have a class public class, and I have to mute this sound. It's coming. So public class, and we'll say name any shape. We'll say let's say rectangle, and we'll implement this I shape. And add one more thing over here, public, and integer, always have integer, public int, and we'll say area. Get, and we'll say set. So if I will try to implement this one, now we have implementation of this rectangle. So sorry, let me try with different way, and okay, it's showing me something, and let's collapse this one. So this is done like a very one-liner syntax. Do not get confused with this. Actually, it allows us to make this one as well. But for now, we not need to implement because they have already implemented in interface actually. So for this area, let's only have a look for this area. So for the area, what is the formula of rectangle area calculation? You guys know?
L into V, length into breadth.
So we'll say return length multiplied by this breadth. And let's bring this to Momo Jumbo over here, because this is already implemented. And we have to say like this is the method, and this one is also method. Yeah. Oh, sorry, we not need to have a get and set over here. We'll do like this. Now let's say I want to do the same thing for the square. And what is the spelling of square, guys?
SQARE.
SQ
UARE.
ARE.
Yes.
Is it?
UARE.
Is it?
SQUARE.
UARE.
This one is right.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Sir.
Because within that I am able to respond one person who is asking for something. And for the formula of square, what is the formula?
Length square.
Length square,
L
right?
into L.
So we can say something like this, right? Even we don't need this one as well, right? But let it be. So we have a interface like shape, and then we are doing the implementation in rectangle and square. Now let's say I want to do thing like this, and I will say decimal. And make it int, and we will say length. For now, just to show you a little bit different thing, that is why I'm typing, though it's not required. I'll just add this one, though it's wrong one. Now you can see we have a two function area. One have a different parameter and one have a no parameter. So what is termed as in OOP? This is, we have the same name but two function. What will say for this one?
One is default.
Method overloading. Yeah. So in OOP, as one friend already explained, like one person can behave like in two scenario, one as a father and one as a son. How to implement that concept in OOP? Or another example, we can see a teacher can be a student also, and he can teach also someone, right? So same person, but according to the need, he can behave like a sometime as a teacher, sometime as a student. So it totally depend the scenario how he is invoked, like depend on the caller. So slowly we'll implement, like if you have a in your code something coming like to solve a problem, actually nothing is built in OOP for the It's totally conceptual thing. Like to solve the problem, there are few things already someone had solved and had given us a name, like encapsulation. What it does in our employee class, if you remember, we have a implementation over here. Let's say in our employee class, let's create one property. I'm going to create one more property. Let's say I will say prop, and I will do the tab, and I will say string, and we will say gender, and I want to make it private. Not make a private, I'm making it public. But what I will do, no, let's make it private for now, so that it will be easier for us. So in private, what I want to do, we have our two constructor over here. So I will add one more constructor. And within this constructor, what I will do one extra thing. I will, I will bring this gender, and I will set gender, and I'll bring this as a parameter. Now, if I will go in our previous form, and I will try to set the value, in this area, you will not find our gender, right? Gender property. Because what we had done, we had made this one a private, and we are setting the value from here. And if someone need a gender, what we can say, public, and string get gender. From this gender, what we'll do, we'll return gender. So if someone need the value of gender, they have to call this one. And if they want to set the property of gender, they have to call this constructor. So encapsulation, like in capsule, what you had seen, capsule is closed externally, and internally we have something. So in the class, we have a data, we have a properties, and we have a method. So we actually encapsulating everything in a single piece of class, and we have an option to control that, how to set the value, how to get the value. So in place of exposing gender property, we made it private, and we had provided an option to access that value with the different method. So you will say, just why you want to make so much complexity, like creating this? If you already have to provide everything as a gender, then why create it as a private? You can just make a public. You not need this get gender method, right? So uh, in our scenario, currently we are just trying to build a scenario. Actually, in real life, this is not the case you have to do, but there are other things that you want to restrict the user. Do not, they can set the value or they cannot directly access those values. So they will be accessed within the class and modified within the class, not from the outer side. Because this class is very naked class and anyone can temper your data. So actually it allows us handle our data like you can say very trusted way, so that the one who have a control or have proper way of access, they can only read or write those things. Encapsulation means hiding the internal details or mechanics of how an object does the things. That is the main concept of encapsulation. And then what is abstraction? Basically, abstraction and encapsulation, these are the things when we do the design of system, we have a concern like how to solve them, how to abstract the thing. Like abstract is like, do not show them everything. What the caller need, only expose those things so that they will just press a dot and get what they need. They do not have to look how implementation is done. Those are the things like internal implementation. Basic idea behind these abstraction encapsulation is just hide the complexity for the caller, just provide them option, especially the interface, so that they can use it. They do not have to see what is inside, and no one can just modify your data from outer side. So this abstraction, encapsulation, polymorphism, method overloading, you guys already had done in C++. You had already gone with too many theories. So as someone asked today for this concept, why I'm not talking about them? When we do the practicals for our project, there will be always a scenario and we complete them while doing the real project, in place of creating these kind of classes like square, shape, rectangle, because you guys already know them and there is nothing need to do implement. We will check this abstraction, encapsulation, polymorphism while doing our real works. And whenever the scenario arrives, I will let you know for like this is this and how you can use it. Like today we have seen like we have IDMP in two ways, right? So slowly like we'll pass this data from somewhere else and we access it. So there is term called dependency injection. So we'll pass this connection string from somewhere else and we'll use it. We're not going to read these kind of things from here. So slowly those days will come. Do not worry for the um, theoretical part. While working with real work, we always can find them. Any question, guys, till now? No question. I can move on.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we created a store procedure for the insert. If I have to write the store procedure for update, how can I do it? Let's modify this one and make this one as a create. And for the update, we need one more thing. We need user ID and the data type is integer. What is the SQL syntax for the update? We'll say update this and we'll say set and what will say first name equals
First name. At
first
the rate
name
first.
and then we will say last name equals @ last name, and then we have to provide a condition where
User ID is equal to
user ID equals this user ID,
user ID.
and we can delete this one. No? So this is the way, and we have to provide a name. What is this for? Update. Remember the way I am naming it. So this is for the update. If I have to create a store procedure for delete, what we will do? We will say delete, and to delete the record from SQL, what we do? We will say delete from this where this user ID equals
User ID.
user ID. We can remove this, and to delete we not need this first name and last name, right? Now this is the procedure for delete. So we created 3 store procedure: add, update, delete. The last one, last 2 store procedure is also needed. One is USP EMP. We'll say get all. So we'll say select all from this, and we do not need this one, and we also do not need this one. So this will return all the data. And one more, we need a store procedure. We'll say create procedure emp get by user ID, and we'll say select all from this where user ID is equal to user ID. So now we created all the basic store procedure that is needed for our operation: add, delete, get all, get by user ID, and update. So as your guide has seen the syntax, if you need to provide someone these store procedure, how you can do? Like, let me close all the things that is open over here. And what I will do, I will open, there is a object explorer, DTL. So once I go in store procedure, I can find all the my store procedure and select them, right click, script, and we'll say create new query window. This one will bring everything over here. What we can do, we can save them in our desktop. Why I'm creating this file, I want to provide this store procedure to you all of guys so that you can create in your database and have a look. So root sp, and I will make us in this a txt file so that I can upload in a Facebook group and you all guys have access of that. So I will upload this file in few minutes so you can have a look how I had created so that you can do a little bit practice. So we have a comment, we have a number of operation that we had done. And one more thing, guys, though I had written to select everything from this table, in real work, generally we do this work page wise, Cause if you have a too many data and you select everything in a single call, what will happen? Your user interface get freeze. Let's say you have a 10 lakh data and you load everything in a single page. What will happen? And that UI will never open, right? So we have to do the page wise, but for simplicity, we have taken all the data from the database. Now, there is other way if you don't know how to write query. So I will show you the option. Like this is our table. If you go and do the right click and you will say select 1000 rows. Look, you got a select query inbuilt. Just you have to remove this one because this one return only 1000 rows and you have a first name, last name, this. So this is the one way to write select query. But how we had written? We had written select all, right? So this is bad practice. Never do like this select all kind of thing. Always write down the name of the column that you need. Though you select all the columns, but always write the name. Why? Let's say due to any reason, if you added any column over here, then you have to check your all store procedure, all your code, what are the problems. But if you write like this, all your old work code will keep working. For the new things, you have to add those columns. So always try to write the name and always use this bracket because this is automatically generated by this tool, or there are other tool like Redgate, etc. They will provide you easy to write them. So never try to use this one. Use these kind of naming way. This is the small thing that we completed today. So tomorrow we'll do the same job with the framework with the SQL helper. The time is over today. I'm stopping the recording. If anyone have a question, we can have a